Hello and welcome to Transitional Artists, and today I want to talk about how much art is too much art. I've looked on the major art sites like Etsy and DeviantArt, and if you look on there, you'll see that there are hundreds of millions of pieces of art on there. And so you have everything from paintings to drawings, lots of crafts, jewelry, that sort of thing. And the same is true with music sites like SoundCloud and Bandcamp. You have millions of pieces of music on there. And this extends out obviously to YouTube and Amazon.com and all the private galleries all around the world. So there's lots and lots of art being created and placed online. And this is also true in the other arts like dance, poetry, theater. There are just millions and millions of videos and other things expressing the various arts. So my point is that we're inundated with art, and at the same time we have this information coming in from the sciences saying that we've really damaged the environment. I just read an article that the Great Pacific Trash Heap is much larger than they thought it was. And that, if you don't know what that is, it's just this huge pile of plastic junk out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And by huge, I mean larger than the size of Texas. It keeps breaking down into smaller and smaller pieces, and it's getting into the fish, and it's just a big mess. And then I read that the sea level rise is going to be much more damaging and much quicker than they thought it was. And on, you just keep reading over and over about how bad it is and how much worse it is than they previously thought. And so these two things are happening simultaneously. As artists, we need to consider both at the same time. And that is that, let's say today you want to make a painting. And do you really want this painting to be the 300,000th and one painting created today and placed online? That's the first thing. And then secondly, does it matter to you that what you use to make that painting will damage your habitat, what you need to survive on this planet? And so those two things come into play in all of the arts too. It's not just the fine arts, the visual arts I meant. And there are artists right now who are creating art with that in mind, and not just as a secondary expression. I brought two magazines here, and one is Art in America, and the other is The Artist magazine. And I'm using these as a critique. I'm not selling these magazines. And Art in America tends to be an insider's look at artists who are considered valid and important in the art scene. And that's usually decided by the large galleries. And once they deem an artist valid and important, then anything that an artist makes is of note and is considered part of the important artistic expression going on. And with this magazine, that would be within the United States. And then the Artist magazine is much different. They are talking about the technical aspects of creating art, like which brushes to use, which easels, canvases, that sort of thing. And they go into abstract art sometimes, but usually it's very traditional realist art. And, I haven't read every single issue of either of these magazines, but when I do read them, they have touched on environmental issues. Art in America has presented artists who use the environment as their expression, as their subject matter. And the Artist magazine, I've read articles in here about like the toxicity of paint and that sort of thing. And I'm not picking on either one of these magazines. I like them both. But usually when I read anything about the arts and the environment, it's as a secondary conversation. And it's a point of interest, but then people just move right back into what a usual conversation about the arts, and then they just go back to creating art. And creating art is a wonderful thing. I've studied art my whole life. I've created art my whole life. And the act of learning a craft and getting talented at it as you practice is a wonderful thing. And I think that's why it's so compelling to people. And then also being part of a community expression where you're having a conversation with your cultural community. That is a very wonderful thing, and it's very rewarding. But if we completely ignore a certain aspect of what's going on around us and continue to have this cultural expression and continue to create things, then that is going to affect the expression of your art. And also, and this is probably the most important thing and the most obvious thing, if you completely ignore the sciences and what they're saying about the environment, eventually that will come into collision with the creation of all the arts. And when that day happens, the environment will win. And the point of this video, and the point of all of these videos, will be that right now we have time. There are things still in place that allow us to have this conversation about how to change the arts and how to change how we make art, considering this information about the environment. There will be a day, and probably sooner rather than later, where that won't be an option. We simply won't be able to make art the way we have in the past because none of the materials will be around for us to do that. And so there are artists right now who are creating art with the environment as their primary focus, and the information coming in from the sciences aren't a secondary part of their art, it is a primary part of their art. And I'm going to put those artists on here soon. I don't want to go out and buy fancy software to make these videos, to have like video graphics behind me and everything. So I'm going to assume that my audience is intelligent and well-read and knows how to click on links to do your own research. But I will incorporate within my videos little pieces showing various artists that have already taken this into account and have changed their expressions. And this is in music and visual arts and in all the arts. There are people who are already making this transition. So with that in mind, if you know of artists who are creating land art or eco art or changing their expression with information about the environment, please share that with me, and please share my videos, subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Thanks.